Hey everyone, glad you're with us again this week as we continue our study in the book of Matthew, but we come to a part of the book of Matthew where Jesus talks about the sign of Jonah, and so we want to discuss what the sign of Jonah is. And we have discovered that actually the sign of Jonah probably has multiple aspects to it, and we've looked at couple of those aspects, and now we're coming to a third aspect of the sign of Jonah. Now, if you remember, we've talked previously that about how Jesus' comment about the sign of Jonah being the only sign that is going to be given can be found in multiple places. For instance, in Luke chapter 11, beginning in verse 29, Jesus says, "This generation is an evil generation. It seeks for a sign, but no sign is going to be given to it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah became a sign to the people of Nineveh, so will the Son of Man be to this generation." So the idea is not that Jonah will do something that will serve as a sign. He will himself be a sign to the people of Nineveh. And when the people in Jesus' day see things about Jesus, not the fact that Jesus is just performing miracles, but that Jesus himself, when they see those things about Jesus himself, then they will know that they are witnessing the sign of Jonah and that Jesus is the true Messiah. And we can also see Jesus comment about the sign of Jonah in Matthew chapter 12, beginning in verse 39. He says, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Now, we see that one aspect of the sign of Jonah is Jesus' death, which we looked at last time. Remember that Jesus' death would be a sacrifice for others. This is the reason that Jesus would have to spend 3 days and 3 nights in the ground. He would die a sacrificial death. So that was one aspect of the sign of Jonah and should have told the people that Jesus was the Messiah. However, many take this passage in Matthew as a sign of Jesus' resurrection. And while there may be some tie to that, we do need to keep in mind that Jesus did not need to be resurrected for this statement in Matthew to be true. Remember, the statement was, as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So in reality, his disciples could have actually done exactly what the Jewish leaders claimed that they did. They could have taken his body out of the tomb and burned it. That would have ended his time in the heart of the earth and therefore fulfilled the sign of Jonah. So it's a little bit of a stretch to say that Jesus is using his resurrection as an aspect of the sign of Jonah. What we can say is that one aspect of the sign of Jonah is that Jesus' body would be removed from the tomb. And it just so happens that the removal was through a resurrection. But it didn't have to be that way in order for the removal of his body to be one aspect of the sign. So the fact that Jesus was in the heart of the earth for 3 days does seem to be one aspect of the sign of Jonah. It just didn't have to be a resurrection. The removal of his body should have been enough regardless of the method of the removal. In other words, when people witnessed the disappearance of his body after 3 days, they should have understood that this was one aspect of the sign of Jonah and that Jesus was the true Messiah, regardless of how his body was removed. So Jesus predicting that his body would be removed at the exact time that it was removed, and the fact that somehow it was removed under the noses of trained killer Roman guards should have told the people that this was part of the sign and that he is our Messiah. Hey, I hope you all have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time as we look at the last aspect of the sign of Jonah, which we're going to see is the people to whom his gospel message would be sent. Have a good week. Bye-bye.